as seems to be the traditional me fashion, here we are, months later after the previous, major YouTube project finished, only to now get to the next major one, Metroid Prime. Now, this was actually the first project that I had the Patreon supporters vote for, and out of a selection of lots of good games, they ended up going with this one. Which I already do have it featured on my channel in a minor degree, just way back in the day when I recorded the boss fights for this particular game. But now, it's time to give it the full attention it deserves, because seriously, I've always really loved this game. And you know what? Let's go ahead and give it all sorts of attention, because I'm going to make this an 100% playthrough. We're not doing no damage, it's not happening. There's just no way that is going to work properly whatsoever for this type of game. Of course, I do have the practice file there from ages ago when this particular game was played last time, probably on stream at some point. And I haven't mentioned that the title screen music and the file select music and a whole lot of the music in this game is actually really surprisingly nice. There's some kind of weird tracks here and there, but I mean, it's pretty good! It's a lot better than I expect from most Metroid titles, at least. But yeah, there's a hard mode unlocked after you beat the game the first time. That's why it's giving me the option since we have a completed file there already. But hey, things start off in a bit of a familiar fashion. Except instead of having Planet Zebs, or Zebes, or Zebus, or however you want to pronounce it, we have a planet called Tallon IV. But yeah, same thing. Ship somewhere nearby a planet, distress beacon, gotta go. This time it wasn't a place that we just were, like last time, because that was kind of funny the last time, let's be honest. But yes, welcome to a whole new Samus adventure, and this time, it's in 3 dimensions! Which actually translated rather well, but yes, please enjoy this opening cinematic. Seriously, this game is GameCube era, but it was good looking for the GameCube era, so it still looks fine even now. Yeah, sure, it's not going to compete with current-gen graphics, but this was at the point, at least for me, where 3D was getting good enough that it still ages okay. Unlike, say, the N64, where most of that stuff I can't really look at it anymore. But this game runs so smooth, it looks so nice, and there's actually lots of little effects that you can really appreciate. Retro Studios has this weird habit of getting the most out of the hardware. That continued on in their more recent games as well, where it's just they know how to push things to just optimize the shit out of a game, so it just looks really nice. And this is no exception, as here is Samus. Look how nice this model looks. It's a little more jagged than you'd sometimes expect, but look how nice this looks. They knew it looked good. They're panning the camera all over it. Yeah! Superhero landing. Okay, maybe not. She doesn't use the fist, but whatever. Welcome! So, unsurprisingly, the first thing they're going to get you to do, since this is a whole new style of gameplay for Samus at this time, is get you a little bit used to the unique controls and stuff that goes on in this game, such as scanning. Oh my goodness, scanning. We're going to be doing a whole lot of scanning, but just to not drive people crazy, I'm not going to be reading the entire scan logs, because that gets to pages and pages and pages and pages and pages of flavor text. Anyways, quick tutorial, learns you how to use the lock-on mechanic, teaches you how to do manual aiming, you got the morph ball, you got all the standards, it's still Metroid. But yeah, Retro did a really good job actually adapting Samus to a 3D plane. It's more of a first-person adventure-y type of game now, so you're not quite as mobile as in the 2D games, but it worked. It worked really well. Yeah, sure, there's other adaptations to it by now, but this still works. I still like playing this game quite a bit. Now, while we're going through this here tutorial area, let me address a little bit of the elephant in the room. Yes, this seems very familiar. It's almost like we've been here before a couple of months ago. Well, you see, a few things have happened between now and then. One of them being that my Wii HDMI adapter has broken again. So, I've decided why not just do away with it. You may notice the game is looking a lot better than it did in the previous footage. That's because, well, you see, since the original hardware really doesn't want me to record off of it, emulation does do a pretty damn good job with GameCube games these days. I gotta say, it is nuts. Look how pretty this is now. Look how pretty this is. I don't have to doctor the footage afterwards by brightening it because the Wii HDMI adapter was so crap. This looks how it's supposed to look. It actually looks a little bit nicer than it's supposed to look, so we'll be sticking with it. Also, speaking of adaptations from the old 2D Metroids to the 3D ones, the mapping system. Once you get a little feel for the controls, it's actually a really good mapping system. Get the angle you want, take a look, it lets you just get a good feel for the overall layout of where you are on a 3D plane. I'm gonna keep emphasizing the words 3D now because I feel like it. The other thing is, hey, where's everybody else? Why are you by yourself today? I decided to go solo on this first one because, well, there's stuff to explain. I'll have the others back in starting with the next one. But for now, you're stuck with just me! And just me doing terrible things in the past as well, such as spinning around when going down the elevator. For some reason, I keep doing that. I know it nauseates some people, but I keep doing it. It's just a thing I do. But yeah, that way we get a much prettier looking series of videos than before, and I don't have to spend another $30 on yet another Wii HDMI adapter that will probably break in a few months again. Seriously, why are those things so fragile? I got different brands of them too, and they still seem to break just as quickly and have just as quick of... Ugh, it's terrible. I don't know what's wrong with them. But yeah, so that's the thing. GameCube era, still kind of tricky to record just because the GameCube itself only has composite cables, yellow, red, and whites. That is, like, at best you're gonna get 480p out of that. Not very good signal at all. It's really difficult to actually get a capture card that supports that type of stuff anymore. I still have my old one, but seriously, I got my really old videos in Metroid Prime on the channel to show you how bad that one looks. So it was just like, I was a bit bummed, because I had only just gotten started on this series when that broke, unlike when one of them broke during Sunshine when I was most of the way through it. But yeah, that's been a fun adventure. Here's some Space Pirates, by the way. They're kind of mostly already weakened, so yeah, like this guy, he's already mostly dead. Oh, also the question probably pertaining to the first two videos that I was recording before. Those ones, they still have some hilarious commentary. I'll leave them as like bonus videos at the end of the playlist, all that good stuff. But yeah, this intro area, it's mostly just about getting used to the game. Guess you'll learn that, hey, you should probably use the scanning mechanic decently often just to take a look around. And just to point out the same thing as I did before, only really the red scans are super important. Those are the ones that'll unlock things for you, and they'll usually have, like, for example, if there's a whole bunch of scans on a computer console, and one of them happens to be red while the rest of them's orange, the red one's the only one that'll go into your logbook. There are plenty of orange scans that go into your logbook as well, but there are things like save stations, map stations, and just regular enemies. Stuff where it's clearly obvious these are things that will go into your logbook. Sort of. Sometimes it's not super obvious. But yeah. They got a bit better with the scanning mechanics starting with Metroid Prime 2. Like, for example, it actually highlights the entire object instead of just being a little symbol that you lock onto. I'm not going to bother using that save station because the video would be like 3 minutes long. I'm not going for that. We're going to do the entire intro section. That makes a lot more sense. Of course, by 3 minutes, I meant 8 minutes, because I am smart today! Now, much like a certain Super Metroid, the game starts you off with a little intro area boss. Let's go ahead and get the Parasite Queen here to sign in for us. Come on, Queenie! We know you're up there. This game is very old, and you've been featured in a Smash Brothers game by now. There she is! So, much like with any other intro boss, the Parasite Queen is super easy. The only thing you have to remember to do is don't forget to scan her. If you want to get all the scans, you have to make sure to not miss a single boss because you only get one attempt to scan them. So go ahead and get that done real quick. If you feel like reading about the detailed anatomy and like weaknesses of a Parasite Queen, go ahead. Here's a little trick that's only possible in the GameCube version of this video game. If you mash the beam button and the missile button at the same time, you cause a cancellation of animations that allows you to fire missiles much more rapidly and end this boss before the Parasite Queen even gets to do anything. The two things you missed on was the Parasite Queen will fire a laser. That's really about it. You can just sidestep to dodge it. And sometimes the barriers around the Parasite Queen will go a little bit crazy and spin around her to give her a few free hits while you just mash the fire button repeatedly hoping to sneak a shot in. Exciting! But speaking of exciting, as is the tradition, Samus has stepped upon a thing and now it must explode. It doesn't matter what it is, it's just gonna blow up if she's been there. But yeah, that missile canceling thing, it doesn't break a whole lot of stuff in the game, but there's definitely some of the stuff earlier on that it breaks really, really hard, such as that boss. Essentially what it's doing is normally when you're just mashing the missile button in particular, there's an extended animation where Samus has to kind of like reload a missile. Not like in the whole shoving a missile back down her gun thing, but like energy has to build up to form the missile or something. But when you press the beam button, it instead plays the animation of Samus's like missile opening, retracting, and going back to the beam mode, which is a much shorter animation and allows you to do that whole like nonsense there. Also because I forgot to scan them earlier, here's the parasites. So, the escape portion of this essentially goes on in the biggest air ducts I've ever seen that even have like emergency hatches and whatnot for you to go through. But yeah. That allows us to traverse back to the start of the ship at a little bit faster of a pace than we would before. So, since this section goes on a little bit, another thing that the more astute people may have noticed, or at least people that have a little bit more paying attention form of ears, there's been some upgrades in terms of overall quality of sound, for example. I now have a much better audio setup, so hopefully y'all will appreciate much clearer audio. I do realize it makes certain sounds of mine a little bit sharper than they used to be. But the overall experience should be much clearer and just have a more even sound to it. No more peaking microphones or other such issues that I was having before, because everything's a lot more consistent, nice and compressed a little bit. And I'm no longer like 5 miles away from my microphone, and is now like 2 inches from my face. So that results in a much just clearer sound anyways, because it's no longer just sitting on my desk. This is thanks to a fellow named Sip, donated for the equipment and helped set it up. So that's been a good time. But yeah, overall, a lot of improvements. It's one of those things, Metroid Prime, the videos were so early on into their series that I wanted to just step back and severely upgrade the quality. Like, this game runs almost flawlessly on emulation, as you can see. And I made sure to use that other file to go ahead and test everything else to make sure it was working, and so far so good. So yeah, props to Metroid Prime. It's a really good game that just still looks really nice, and I wanted to make sure that was emphasized instead of having like fuzzy brightness increased things. And here's Ridley for some reason, who now has like mecha implants. Meta Ridley never really made a whole lot of sense, but there he is. His very like being here in the first place doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Why was he there? Why was he attached up to that? How's he just bursting through the ceiling like that? There's a lot of questions, but yeah. All we need to know is, Ridley exists, Thomas isn't happy about it, and so we continue on. This escape sequence, there's a lot of spare time, so you don't really have to worry about rushing too much. But you know what does have to happen? It's the start of a Metroid game, it just wouldn't be right without this happening! Boosh! And away goes all of your stuff. I hope you weren't too attached to that Varia suit, and the missile launcher, and the morph ball, and the morph ball bomb, and the grappling hook, and the charge beam. Samus, please, how do you keep losing all of your stuff? And how did getting thrown against a wall do that? How many times have you been smacked against a wall? It's been a lot. Yeah, they pretty much had to come up with any excuse for you to collect the same old stuff again. But, I mean, I guess it works. If you really have to make it do that. We're getting all those power-ups eventually, so we'll see him again. Along with plenty of new ones, of course. But yeah, that's really it. You sneak out with plenty of time to spare, the ship's going boom, Ridley's gonna escape off into the horizon. And well, our ship just happens to be very convenient in terms of proximity, so we can go and chase down Meta Ridley. Samus got some good legs on her, she's already back to the ship. It's one of those things where I guess the speed booster wasn't something in her arsenal at the time, so she's going just as fast as she used to. So yeah, that's the whole start of this. You'd answer a distress beacon, and then you end up fighting Meta Ridley, and everything just kind of goes pear-shaped from there. I don't know, Ridley, you've caused one too many problems. But now, let's have everybody's favorite tradition when it comes to Samus. Just how recklessly this woman lands her ship! Because ground recon is apparently necessary, even though it's like, how do you lose something as large as Ridley? Why do you have to look around on the ground for him? I mean, I don't know. Who knows? It is a mystery. But yeah, the same thing kind of happened with Super Metroid, where Samus goes to land, but she really doesn't slow down very much. It's like... So, yeah, here's a nice peaceful atmosphere, Tallon IV. Okay, it's not the hardest landing that she's done. This one actually tries to slow down a bit ahead of time. But there have been a couple of them where it looks like she's just going to nosedive into the ground and then just kind of pulls up at the last second. I don't know. Samus probably needs her pilot's license revoked. In the meantime, though, welcome to Tallon IV, and we'll see you here next time, probably with a couple of guests. Bye!